leaders who shared similar belief, 民生主义、三民主义, and who shared similar mental shame, and who determined to wipe up, to make up their failure in Chinese mainland. So this small group of leaders, during two great debates, they began to change their thinking, their understanding of economic affairs. Chiang Kai-shek, Chen Chen, and several many others, they began to change their understanding. And also during the debate offered them an opportunity for to think strengths and weakness of market economy and planned economy. So the debates provide them with a platform for them to look at the differences and shortcomings and strengths of state enterprises and private enterprises. And Chiang Kai-shek and Chen Chen showed their political leadership. They endorsed the reform. They endorsed privatization. And they endorsed a policy to protect the private property rights. And also, there was a new way for Chinese and Taiwan to solve economic problems. People like Yin Zhongrong, they used a guided plan-free economy. They used the authority of command economy to promote market economy. And the unique Chen Chen, Yin Zhongrong, Yan Jiagan triangle was very powerful and useful and successful in promoting the privatization, promoting a market economy. And two major economic debates was very useful because with the conclusion of the debates, a consensus emerged among political economic leaders as well as common citizens with an endorsement of private economy. So people changed their mind. The cognition change encouraged Taiwanese, providing Taiwanese with more incentives to encourage market economy. Of course, there are many factors to explain the story of Taiwan economic transformation. American factors, of course, it's been very, very important. American aid, not only the military economic aid, but also the ideology. The American ideology of how to solving agriculture problem, how to solve economic problem, have been very useful, very helpful. But one unique factor, I would say that this was the best gift that God had ever given to Taiwan, is K.Y. Yin. You have already shared with me through the stories. Yin was so unique, so smart, so creative and innovative as to initiate new ideas and new reforms. And he was very smart to pick up the right path for Taiwan's economic growth. So within virtually 1 decade, with the path of statutes, for encourage investment, Taiwan had successfully transformed itself from a planned economy into a market economy. Thank you.
That was deeply informative and very effectively delivered, particularly given that you were struggling with a hoarse voice. So now we open it up. Would anyone like to ask any questions of Kuo Daijun? Just go ahead.
I should call you Professor Kuo, okay, yeah. But I think it's good to stand up here. I kind of, you deliver a lot of the documentary information to the audience, but I kind of disappointed what you delivered to us. First of all, you know, most of the people here today probably interesting to see how is Taiwan today. But your speech just end up 1960 something, okay? what about, after 1960 and to now? And it just like give me an idea as what you said, that a politician can interpret the restriction policy or can interpret as the adjustment management. So it depends on how you to interpret. There's a couple mistakes you point out. First of all, in the history record, there's nothing talk about Japan give the sovereignty to KMT or to Republic of China. Because we all live in San Francisco. In San Francisco, there's a peace treaty. There's nothing talk about the sovereignty can hand over, just under the military occupation. Sovereignty has to be transferred under the public international treaty. San Francisco Peace Treaty was signed 1951, September 8, and become effective April 28.
We don't have a huge amount of time for.
I know.
So
we just cut it short, very short. Yeah. No, that's because she mentioned that. That's the first one. At the beginning, she said, "Oh, well, Taiwan, hand it over." That's why I pointed out. That's here. That's the error. That's a mistake. Especially recently, United States just give Taiwan the visa waiver policy, program, and they ask all the travel from Taiwan, if you want to enjoy the program, visa waiver program, you have to declare your nationality Taiwan. You are resident Taiwan. Your nationality, and there are three things: nationality.
But I think you're drifting pretty far from the.
Right. That's one thing.
Here.
The second thing, that's the first of all, it's an error in information. The second one, you talk about, how the success to transfer from the marketing economy to the market economy. But you did not mention why and how that important after the World War II, KMT come over to Taiwan, they reformed the currency. All the Taiwanese people, their property devalued from $40,000 into $1. That's ridiculous because they are just in one day. Everyone you have to realize in one day 40,000 into $1.
Okay,
that's how
let me cut you off there and let her let her reply to this.
Right.
That's already.
There's a couple of things. Yeah.
All right. So you want to respond to any of that?
Well, first of all, this is a purely academic gathering. And my subject is Taiwan's economic transformation. And I agree with you. There are many other factors to explain Taiwan's transformation, Taiwan's economic reform. For example, Japanese factor is very important. But my topic, I just mentioned that I focus on small group of leaders and the two debates because the limit of the time. Japanese set a profound foundation for further reform, of course, and American aid, U.S. aid, was essential for Taiwan's economic transformation. And Taiwan was also very lucky to get on the trend of the rapid growth of world market. So there are many other factors to explain Taiwan's economic transformation. But today, let's focus on what we've been talking about.
Let me pick up from this slide here and ask you a question about, it's a great way to close because it leads us into thinking about the current time period and what other developing countries that have not yet been developing very much but would like to can learn from the early experience of Taiwan's economic miracle. So the lessons I get out of this that may be generalizable, because after all, how do you generalize KY Yin? But what might be generalizable is, first of all, and a lot of the literature on African economic development today and what's accounting for Africa's economic takeoff in the in a number of African countries that are beginning to get it right and register for the first time rapid economic growth, I'm interested to see kind of resonate with your list here. So one thing, of course, is relatively clean government. If you have massive predatory corruption, you're just not going to get there. So you might say something about why Taiwan had relatively clean administration. Was it just lucky in its leadership, or was there something about the institutions or the culture or the history? Secondly, it seems that your presentation is a little bit of a corrective to or a cautionary note about just a strict, rigid, market-oriented formula that, you know, open up everything all at once, you know, forget about the role of the state, and the market will take care of itself. So you're saying there was a bit of a synthesis here. And the third thing was that I think is relevant here is the ability of flexible policymakers to learn from experience and adapt. And the fourth thing is something that's being emphasized in the literature now on African economic development. You might say a little bit more about who were these people? How were they trained? Where did they get their economic training? Because the argument is that what we're seeing in Africa now that's contributing to this new emergence is a generation of technocrats, economic policy technocrats, who've actually got some, you know, professional training and competence. So maybe you could react to that.
Yeah, one important factor to explain Taiwan's successful story was that the government under the leadership of Chiang Kai-shek, as well as his son Jiang Jingguo, was relatively clean from corruption. People, powerful people like Yin Zhongrong, Yan Jiagan, Li Guoding, Sun Yunxuan, people who control, who had authority of allocating economic resources, look at their children. None of their children served in government nor business. So was it because of the luck? No, I don't think it was merely the luck. The sheer mantle of shame helped, because
from the calamity of 1940.
Right, yeah, because from the defeat. Because Chiang Kai-shek and his followers, they had party reform, not only economic reform. They had party reform in the 50s, and they determined, they swear that they want to avenge, they want to make up their failures. So they were very strict in keeping the government, keeping the officials clean from corruption. And secondly, I would say that Taiwan was probably lucky to choose the right path. That as early as 1953, the government decided his role. The government make up that what kind of role it would play in economic development. So the government decided that the government would make planning, providing environments, revising laws and regulations to promote, to encourage private enterprises. I always ask myself such a question: had the premier in 1950s were not Chen Chen, would that be a different outcome? Because when I did a lot of oral interview, and many people who participated in economic development told me, they said, 没有Chen Chen就没有尹仲荣. KY would not survive without Chen Chen's support. So luck and skills. And Larry, you asked about the background of those technocrats. You know, interesting. National Resources Commission, who controlled most of the national resources, and this commission became a target of criticism after they moved to Taiwan. But more than 90% of the technocrats